Okay, it is 5:31. I'll call the special board meeting to order. Michelle, may I have roll call, please?
Yes. Anderson?
Here.
Delgado?
Present.
Jacobs? Larson?
Present.
Levy?
Here.
Miller?
Present.
Wong?
Present.
All members are present virtually except Jacobs.
Okay, may I have approval of the agenda, please?
So moved, Megan Miller.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved, which brings us to item 2A, approval of the WASB interim superintendent search contract. So this contract has been approved by Rob, our attorney, as well as WASB for approval. The only two changes that Rob suggested we make are moving the venue from Dane County to Rock County. And he also added in that do not exceed clause for $4,500. So are there any questions? I thought I would kind of maybe call on people to see if they have any questions. So then we're not trying to all jump in and talk over each other. So, John, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to say about the contract?
No, it all looked fine to me. I think Megan brought.
John, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to say about the contract?
Hello? I got feedback on that.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I guess just when Megan brought up, she had raised the question about estimates from the previous searches, but I don't know if that makes that big of a deal or not. I think we just need to move ahead. So it looks good to me.
Okay, Joanne, did you know off the top of your head, or I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to see that email, how much the interim search cost previously?
I did not see that email before the meeting today. I apologize for that. I've been in meetings this afternoon. I can do some searching real quick and get back to you as you go through the rest of your comments.
Okay, I appreciate that. And it wasn't very much. I didn't even think it came close to 4,500 if I remember correctly. So we'll continue on. Maria, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to say?
Yes, I was just wondering, is there like any record keeping of like the hours, and as far as, the price, how are we going to be keeping track of that as they go in order to meet, our tab for the 4,500?
That's a good question. WASB will keep track of their hours, and they'll be in communication with myself. If they were to approach that $4,500 do not exceed amount, they would contact me, and we would have to put on an agenda to either say, nope, we're going, whatever that $4,500 gets us, or approve more money to the contract. Dan seems pretty sure that would actually be closer like to 3,000, that we probably won't even come close to that 4,500. So that's how that would work. But WASB keeps track of their hours, and they keep me posted.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Megan, how about you? Do you have any questions or anything you'd like to say?
No, I was just curious about the comparable for the cost. And Joanne, I apologize. I addressed the email to the board and to Sue just because like I'm used to just doing that. But in the future, I'll include you as well. I just didn't want to break any communication flow. But no, everything else looked just fine to me.
Thank you. Spencer, how about you? Do you have any questions or anything you'd like to say?
I don't have any questions or anything to say this time.
All right. Thank you. Amy, how about you?
A few things. A couple fall under the category of I don't think we need to do anything about it. I just want to make sure that everyone is conscious before we finalize the agreement. The first is it's on the first page under B, where it says WASB shall retain sole and absolute discretion in the manner and means of carrying out their activities and responsibilities under this agreement. Dan seems really great. WASB is, of course, extremely reputable, but I just want us to be mindful of the language that's in the contract. Basically, it says they decide how they do their work. I'm sure that they will be mindful of our input, but again, I wanted to highlight the language there. The second is on the second page under C. If you'll notice towards the bottom of the bullet points, some of them say if desired. So for example, assist with final interviews, but assist with final selection, there is no if desired clause, which makes me think that it may be mandatory. I have a few more. I don't know if you want to pause in between for feedback or if I should just finish. Okay.
I'm sorry. I couldn't find my microphone for a second. Yikes.
No problem.
So we do have final say in the candidates. Obviously, they're going to. What they'll do is they'll bring us all the candidates, and we can go from there and slimming them out and doing the interviews. If sometimes you need people to help work, circulate people in and out of the building. So that's all. If we need them to do that, they're more than happy to. And did that answer your questions or your concerns?
And I don't think it'll be a big idea. Again,
No.
I just want us to be conscious of the language. And then for clarification under billing, which may go to Maria's point, it's my understanding as I'm reading this that point 1 is for any prep work. So any work that they do in their office is $195 an hour. So any pre-work, any professional services, I'm assuming that means any face-to-face, like the meeting that Dan participated in with us, any focus groups, etc., is billed at $155 an hour, and then travel time, not including mileage, is $105 an hour. Am I understanding that accurately?
That is correct. And because it's a standard contract, they do put travel time in, but obviously with doing so much virtual meetings, that would be an area where we would have savings because he wouldn't be coming to drive to work with us necessarily.
Right. And then next under insurance, have they submitted a certificate of work compensation? It says that would be on file prior to the signing of the agreement.
Joanne,
I do not believe that we have their liability coverage. I have never seen us collect their workers' comp insurance proof in any contract. We usually have them covered for liability only.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out because it's listed as something that shall be in place. The next one, and again, I don't think we need to take action on it, but I just want to make sure that everyone's walking to this eyes wide open. Page 3, under the I clause, controlling law and contract constitution, number 4. Okay, the force majeure. And participating parties are excluded from performance that extends for the period the required performance is prevented. And if you jump down to the second to the last sentence, each party shall not be responsible to the other party for failure or delay in performance of its obligations under this agreement. The only reason I highlight that point is, again, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. So if that in some way delays this process, no one is held liable for that. So I just wanted us to be mindful of that. Again, I don't think it's anything we need to change, but just be mindful. If there are delays, we don't have recourse. And then the final thing that I think does need to be changed is on the final page under J for terms. It says the terms of this agreement begin on the effective date, which we've stated as April 29th. That's fine. It shall continue until terminated at the completion of the scope of work, which shall occur no later than insert date. No date has been inserted. And my point for highlighting that is we need to know when this will come to a close. Some suggestions. If we are looking to seat someone by July 1st, the 4th Tuesday, which would be policy and personnel for June, would be June 23rd. So we would need for this contract to wrap before June 23rd so it could go to policy and personnel so someone could start on July 1st. If we get in the process and realize, we want to keep looking, we want the person to be able to start August 1st, then that deadline is going to be June 28th to make it to policy and personnel. So we'll have to back this up some number of appropriate days in order to meet those deadlines.
Okay, the hiring of a superintendent or an interim superintendent doesn't go to policy and personnel. That's the one unique hire that the district does. So what the process for hiring a superintendent or interim in this case would be that after interviews, we would make a motion to enter into negotiations with a candidate to be the interim superintendent. And then once the negotiations had finished, we would have a draft contract, and then the full board votes to approve that contract or suggest changes and sends it back to legal. So this is the only situation like that. So the superintendent and interim superintendent isn't necessarily bound to the policy and personnel cycle that we're used to for hires.
Good to know, but we still need to insert a date. We can't leave it at occur no later than insert date.
Oh, okay. So insert. So I guess I'm going to come back to John, and then I also want to hear about people's thoughts on, what that date should be. John, go ahead.
Yeah, I had one question, and this is just something that we ran into, I think, before in previous searches, is if you look at section C, it talks about, one of the bullet points is complete formal background checks. And I guess I'm a little concerned about that because basically what I've generally understood from formal background checks is that's more of a legal, criminal type behavior and that type of thing. Were they employed? Are they doing a more extensive search to determine, is there anything out there that we need to be aware of about these individuals that, any Joe on the street could just do a Google search and find on that? Because we ran into that before through the previous interviews, and that's not listed on any of those bullet points on there as far as, and I'm not sure what type of a search that's going to entail. So I just wanted, to bring that to everyone's attention, just from previous searches that we had. And I think that Kyle, you were involved in the previous one when we ran into those problems, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's true. Okay. So then some sort of a additional, like a Google search, is that what you're thinking on?
Yeah, I think just a Google search, social media, things like that, not that we're going to hold them, it's going to be all factual. We want to be careful about that. But if there's something that's out there that, anybody can do a Google search and find, we don't want to have the public find it before we do.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So I'd actually like to maybe hear from Sue for a second, because when we were talking about the superintendent search, we had talked about no later than August 3rd. So I would be interested in hearing from Sue when she thinks, the best, the latest we could have someone seated would be, if it's August 3rd, and then that might kind of help us with that deadline.
Yes, Kyle. I think that August 3rd gives at least 2 weeks prior to the opening of the school year, and that would give someone enough time to get acclimated, meet people, get things started.
Okay. So how does everybody feel about that, like the August 3rd as a date for completion in the contract? Amy, do you think that's a good time?
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. I would be more comfortable with the July 1st date, because we don't have solidified a reentry plan for staff and students, and we don't exactly know what the start of the next school year is going to look like. So I would be concerned with only providing 2 weeks.
Kyle?
Okay. Yes, Sue?
Kyle, I would like to clarify, I meant that as like the last date that would be considered. July 1st is an absolute target date for a start. I just thought August 3rd would be the last day that you would want somebody to come on board. Sorry for the confusion.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, Sue. So Amy, July 1st. So what we can do is, if I don't want to go around and kind of poll people, because that's really kind of like an informal vote. So what we can do is somebody can make a motion to approve the contract with that insertion date of July 1st, if that's agreeable. Is there anyone who has any other questions or concerns about the contract?
The only concern is if we wanted someone to start on July 1st, this is kind of the end of the process, is the date that needs to be inserted. So we wouldn't want that date also to be July 1st.
I kind of wanted that to be clarified too, because we're talking about the contract and now we're talking about the start date. So I think it's 2 different dates. We need to relook at that, like Amy said.
Okay, I do want, so I think maybe pushing up a week before that, 2 weeks before that would be the soonest, because if we're trying to schedule interviews and everything, really, we're talking about a 6 weeks period of time. And so if we need, we want to make sure we have enough time to get everybody in for interview. We want to interview for it. So I'm thinking going too much farther than that. I'm looking at my calendar really quickly.
June 24th?
June 24th? Okay. So...
And Kyle, I'll just point out one thing. If you go back to the bullet points on the second page, it looks like the life of this contract goes from the beginning of the search until the announcement of the candidate. So that would mean that like contract is done, all of that. So I don't think we would need a 2-week window, but it just shouldn't be July 1st, just to give us a little bit more cushion.
Okay. All right. So John had suggested June 23rd. So if that's agreeable, and there's no other discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
I really like how we're having this conversation. I just want to, can I just double check back with our administrators? Is that like, that all makes perfect sense to me. Does anybody on the administrative end see any issue with the June, was it 23rd or 24th? Like, are there any other concerns? Because everything that you all just explained makes perfect sense to me, and I'm in favor of it. Are there any concerns on the admin side?
Megan, no, I don't have any. I think that would be a great window to look at.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And then I think also Joanne commented that she had the WASB from cost from the last search.
Yes, we actually, for the 2018 interim superintendent search with WASB, we paid a total of $6,700, like a little bit over that, but $6,735 is what we paid for the prior interim search with them, and that was from start to finish.
Thank you so much for finding that.
No problem. And I don't have any concerns about that window either.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Or motions?
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the contract as presented with the inclusion of the June 24th date in lieu of, and I can't remember what it was called. Like, what was it, Amy, where it said like the to be determined or whatever?
It says the scope of the work which shall occur no later than.
Right. Okay. So with the date of June 24th then being the no later than date.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. This is Maria.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. We might want to get in the habit of saying our names to make it a little bit easier. Okay, so we have Megan moved to approve the contract as presented with the inserting June 24th for the date of completion, and Maria seconded. Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, Kyle, curious to know, because I think that one thing we haven't really discussed is further negotiations with Sue, and I'm not sure have we outlined as far as, I know that her contract ends on June 30th, but under, she hasn't really given us a yes or a no. And I guess, I think it'd be good to have discussions about that before we go out and hire somebody else to fill her slot. I don't know. I guess, has anybody, we haven't officially spoken with her, correct?
No, nobody has released that down. Sue and I did have a conversation today. So, Sue, if you just want to share your thoughts with the board, I think, it'd be better coming from you than me.
Let's see. Yes, John, we haven't had any formal discussions. You know that I care deeply about the school district, and I'm very willing to stay on and help with any transition that would be needed, or any degree of coaching as somebody got started in that position.
Just to add on to that, in clause K, it says, in the event of termination of this agreement prior to its completion, it is agreed that the district will pay for the cost of the WASB services that were provided up to and including the effective date of the termination. So if we decide to terminate the contract early and they agree, as long as it's submitted in writing, as it states, the financial obligation would stop on the effective date of the termination. So there is a possibility to terminate before the completion date.
Thank you, Amy. So are there any other questions, comments?
I have one, and this is for Sue. Just to make sure they understand clearly. So Sue's willing to stay until the hire of a new interim. Is there any way that she can stay until the new superintendent that we're planning on searching for in January? Is there any way that that would be possible? Because I don't think I have heard a straight no from Sue. So just wanted to get that question out there.
Maria, we have not had that discussion formally.
Does there need to be a motion to have that discussion, Mr. President?
I feel like that would be yes. If the board was interested in negotiating with Sue and trying to see if we could get her to stay, I feel like that the board should move to do so. We do have a motion on the table already, and I don't feel, and Michelle and Sue, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that the WASB interim superintendent search contract is enough wiggle room on the agenda to make such a motion tonight.
I would agree. I think you need to move forward with looking for an interim that would be a good fit, and let me help in any degree of a transition for that individual to serve the district well. So I think you should just move forward with that, and we'll see what you get for candidates for that interim position.
Mr. President, I would also agree that you probably, under the title of WASB Interim Superintendent Search Contract, can't necessarily take that motion tonight. However, that's not to say that Sue couldn't be part of the search or it couldn't be done at a different meeting.
Kyle, I think that we owe it to Sue at the bare minimum to at least, have those discussions. And I think that we have kind of assumed through various conversations that, maybe that's not the case, but whether she's part of the interim search or whether we just have separate negotiations on the side. I know that that's not what this motion is about. So, but I don't know. I just feel that with what she's put in, we need to take that into consideration. And I don't know if we need to do that before this agreement this contract is agreed upon.
I also feel that that needs to be determined before this contract, before we sign this contract, because that could actually save us, some money, as far as paying WASB for a search for an interim when we could possibly have one already within.
We don't have the leeway in this current agenda to make a motion like this. And I think it would be appropriate to move on the motion and not continue to pressure Sue in this meeting.
Any other, Spencer, I saw you unmuted. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
I would probably like to see this become a future agenda item for one of our following meetings, so that we can give Sue some time to think about her response to us and any kind of questions that we could come up with coming up here shortly.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the WSB interim search contract as presented with inserting the June 24th completion date. Any further discussion or questions?
Kyle, is it, I'd like to make a motion to table the agreement, contract agreement until we.
Well, we have to vote it. We have to act on this motion before we can have another one.
All right.
So.
Excuse, point of order, a
Yes.
motion to table supersedes.
Yes, yep.
Kyle, if I could share, I really would like the board to be able to move forward with securing this search firm to look for an interim person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the WSB interim search contract as presented with inserting the June 24th completion date. Any further question or discussions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, the contract is approved unanimously of the 6 board members here. 3A brings us to future items for discussion. Are there any?
I have
I have one.
question. Oh,
I know Sue briefly outlined at a previous meeting kind of 4 scenarios for reentry, but I would like to see a formal agenda item for us to discuss. And it may be more than one contingency plan for how we want to reopen schools in the fall. And outside of the 4 scenarios that Sue included, I would also like to conclude the scenario for even if we are open, if parents do not feel comfortable to send their students, what distance learning option do we have for parents that are choosing to keep their students home?
Okay. Thank you, Amy. I noted that down. If I have any other questions, I'll follow up with you so I can make sure we get I have all the information that you are looking for. Megan, do you have anything?
I do actually, just sort of a sub point to what Amy brought up, kind of same thing, but with an emphasis on what the plan might be for community partners who want to provide mental health services to students, dental care services to students, any of those other relationships that we typically have with our community, what the range of options might be, if any, under those different reopening scenarios.
Okay. Okay.
Can I ask one clarifying question to the prior motion?
Yes.
That was approved? I just want to have clarification on if the board in entering this contract is prepared. They want me to send the applicants' resumes and applications from weekend to Dan tonight or in the morning? Is that the idea that we hadn't planned? I believe so.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you have to do it tonight, because it's already 6 o'clock, but yes.
Nope, I already have them ready, so
Okay.
it's just sending an email. I will have them to them tonight.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Joanne. Any other future discussion items?
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah.
I think we really need to get a grasp or try. I know it's an unknown at this point, but state revenues are going to be down substantially.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody really has any clue what that means for budgets, but I don't think it's going to be a rise. And I think it's going to be a fairly sizable cut. So
Okay.
and I'm not sure what savings we've had so far this year, if we've had any through the situation, but I think that we need to get a very good grasp on the budget. And I know that, Joanne, that's a real wild card to throw out there to you, but I'm guessing there's hopefully some information that's being provided to you to be able to provide us some additional information.
Okay. Okay, I have those down. Any other future discussion items? Okay. Seeing none, may I please have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. So John moved, Amy seconded to adjourn. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, then all in favor of adjourning the meeting, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I think this was a good shot at our first virtual try.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.